Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing great. Today we're going to create a 3D model of a water bottle in 3D Studio Max. We'll model it at HDR lighting and then render it using Arnold renderer. I have already created an animation with this. Let me show you the result. Also, if you feel that you're not just interested in creating this but would rather just download it, you can do that too. For this, you'll need to go to my website, subbezier.com, then scroll down and you'll find a product section there. From here, you can actually download this model. By the way, it says buy now, but if you click on it, it will take you to the Gumroad page, and there you can just enter 0 and you will be able to download this model. So you actually won't need to purchase it. And if you want, you can enter any amount of money here. Alright, let's get started. We'll begin with a completely new scene. So I'm just resetting everything. Right from the start, we'll need a reference image for our 3D bottle modeling. And I have already downloaded this image. You can also use any similar image you find on Google to practice with me. So first, we need to create a plane. You can make it any size you want. I'm just right clicking and centering it. Now, if I drag and drop this image onto this plane, it will appear as a texture. The problem is, as you can see, the image looks a bit stretched. We need to solve this stretching issue. Let me show you the image on the screen. Let's open the properties to check the height and width of our image. Now let's select our image and go to modify panel and input those values. Here I'm just adding a point here to minimize the actual scale while keeping the actual ratio. Since our ratio is fixed, now if requires, we can make it smaller or bigger by scaling the plane. I'll be using various shortcuts throughout the video and they will be displayed around here. I'm now rotating the reference image plane. I'll just type 90 to make it perfectly upright. If I press F from the keyboard, it will bring up my front viewport. Pressing F3 will toggle it to solid mode. Let me reposition the plane. Now I will switch to shape mode and select a rectangle from there. You can draw the rectangle in any size initially, it doesn't have to be perfect. Next, I will center it in the viewport, just right clicking on the position values and it will snap to the center. Then I'll add an edit spline modifier to the shape. I'm going to work on just one half of the shape because later on we are going to add a new modifier to get the final shape. I'll select this edge, then go to modifier panel and click on divide. This adds a vertex in the middle of the segment. Now it's divided into two parts. Keep in mind we are still in segment mode. Now I'll select one side, just this portion, and delete it. Now if I press 1 from the keyboard, it will basically switch to vertex mode. 2 is for segment mode and 3 is for spline mode, right? So let's go into segment mode and divide this segment and move it a bit upward. Press 2 to go to the segment mode again. Select the lower segment and drag it slightly to the right. Press 1 to go to vertex mode. Select the top vertex and move it slightly to the left. Now drag and select all the vertices of the line. Right click from the context menu, select corner. In the bottom section of the bottle shape, I think we need one more vertex. Select the bottom line and divide it once to create a new vertex. Drag this new vertex towards the bottom of the bottle and move it a bit to the left. Don't worry about the sharp corner, it will be fixed soon. Let's rename our reference image plane. I'm going to call it ref as in reference. Now hide the reference image plane so we can clearly see the bottle shape we just created. drag and select all the vertices of our shape, then right click, select Bezier. All of a sudden, the line may get distorted. We're going to fix them one by one in a moment. I'm going to start with this vertex and its Bezier handle. By the way, if you notice that the handle is now locked to the x-axis only, it is because the x-axis is selected. It will be highlighted in yellow. If you click on the y-axis line, the handle will move along the y-axis only. I'm going to select the x-axis and move the handle to straighten the line. The bottom section is now fixed. Now let's fix the cap corner of the bottle. Here, if you move one handle of the Bezier control, the other handle moves automatically too. If you want to move just one handle independently, select the vertex, right click, choose Bezier corner. Now you can move one handle without affecting the other. Let's select the appropriate axis to move the handle, move it slightly, then lock it on the y-axis and adjust the handle perpendicular to the line. Let's unhide the reference image, select the corner vertex, lock it on the x-axis and move the handle slightly. Then lock it to the y-axis and move the handle a bit towards the bottom. As you can see, our bottle shape is now ready. By the way, if you want to move the Bezier handle along both y and x-axis, you need to select the box of the axis control. Let's hide the reference image. Let's rename the shape and I'm going to call it bottle shape. For the second step, we need to add a modifier, the Lathe modifier. And just like that, our bottle shape is almost complete. If I press P, we switch to perspective mode, you will start to notice an issue. The shape isn't looking very smooth. Some parts might appear sharp. We'll fix this gradually. But one quick way to improve the smoothness is by selecting the original rectangle and enable the adaptive option. Once turned on, you will likely see a difference in the curvature. If you don't notice any change, it might be due to the modifier stack order. In that case, make sure to activate this button here, which allows you to see the final result of the modifier stack, no matter where you are in the stack. Now I'm enabling the adaptive checkbox and you'll notice it automatically adds extra vertices where needed to make the shape smoother. Without adaptive, the shape looks quite sharp and segmented. But once it's turned on, it becomes much smoother and cleaner. After that, I will head over to the Lathe modifier and switch back to perspective view. One important thing to remember here, make sure to enable the Weld core option in the Lathe modifier. This helps to merge the center seam and avoid any unwanted gap or split in the final model. Now, let's add another modifier called Edit Poly. I will go into Vertex mode and then select the center vertex. But be careful, if you select like this in the shaded mode, it might feel like that you are selecting just one vertex, but it could actually select the backside as well. So to be sure, press F3 to switch to wireframe mode. And now you can clearly drag, select or isolate just the center vertex. Once selected, just delete it. And now the top of our bottle is open and ready for the next step. Right now, if you look closely, the bottle is basically just a single plane with no thickness. To give it thickness, add a modifier called shell. Once the shell modifier is applied, you can either increase the outer amount or the inner amount to create the thickness. I'm going with the inner amount and setting it to around 0.3 or maybe 0.4, which I think looks good. So our bottle model is almost done. To double check, I will take a quick look at the reference image, press F to switch to the front viewport and then press F3 to go into the shaded mode. Now I'll select the geometry and if you press Alt or X, you can enable the X-ray mode, which lets you see both the model and the reference image underneath it. Looking at it now, everything seems mostly accurate. I'll enable the straighten checkbox so that the thickness of the bottle will always be the same. Now let's move on to the modeling the cap of the bottle. To model the cap, we'll go to the geometry tab and create a cylinder. We can create the cylinder anywhere in the scene for now. And to align the cap with the bottle, which is already centered, I'll right click and zero out the X and Y position. Then move it upwards. Now from the modify panel, I'll reduce the radius to match the neck of the bottle. To check the alignment, we can press Alt X to activate the X-ray mode and turn on the reference image. From the front view, I'll adjust the radius and height of the cylinder accordingly. Currently, there are too many height segments which we don't need, so I'll set that to 0. Now back in perspective view, I'll rename the object and hide the reference image again. I'll add an edit poly modifier to the cap. Keep in mind, 1 is for vertex selection, 2 is for edge selection, 3 is for border selection, 4 is for polygon selection, and 5 is for element selection. I'll press 4 to go into the polygon selection mode. Turn the reference image on and then bevel the top polygon to give the cap some shape. You can click on the bevel option directly, or you can click on the option of the bevel to see all of the available options. Once done, hit OK to confirm the extrusion. Now for some extra detail, press R to enter scale mode, hold shift and scale inward slightly to add edge definition. Then move the new polygon upward, use insert and again shift plus scale down slightly. Once done, press Alt X to return to the normal shading. We don't need the bottom face of the cap, so press 4 again. Select the bottom polygon and delete it. To give the cap thickness, add a shell modifier and set a small inner amount value. Now let's turn the reference image back on and check if everything looks correct. Press F on your keyboard to activate the front viewport. I think the height of the bottle cap needs to be reduced a bit. Next, switch to edit poly mode on the cap and activate edge selection mode. If you double click on this edge, the entire edge loop will be selected. Let's deactivate the shell modifier. I think it will be easier for us to work with the vertex selection. So let's activate the vertex selection mode. Select the upper part of the cap using the vertex selection mode and reduce its height slightly. Switch back to edge selection mode. Double click on the edge again to select the entire loop, and now we can slightly increase the scale of this edge loop. Now let's enable the shell modifier again. Turn off X-ray mode by pressing Alt X again. Unhide the reference image plane. If you look closely on the reference image, you will notice a small ring-like detail under the cap. Now we will model this ring to our bottle. After the shell modifier, let's add another modifier called Edit Poly. Press F to activate the front viewport. Now select an edge here. If you press Alt X, the X-ray mode will turn off, making it easier to see the selected edge. Press the ring button to select all the corresponding edges around the bottle. Then use the connect feature and add a new edge loop. Increase the slide value to move the new edge loop closer to the upper border. Repeat the same process for the upper part too. Select another edge, press ring and then use connect again to create an edge loop closer to the lower border. Press F again to return to the front viewport. Select the middle edge. This time, instead of pressing the ring, press the loop button to select the edge loop around the middle. Activate scale mode by pressing R and scale up the edge loop a bit. Next, use the chamfer button and open its option. Here, from a single edge loop, we'll create 2 new edge loops for additional detail. now we're going to add one more modifier to the bottle. If you press Alt and Q, it will isolate just the bottle. Let's add a Turbosmooth modifier. As soon as we apply it, you'll notice that the entire bottle becomes much smoother. But there is a problem here. It is actually too smooth than expected. Even the areas that shouldn't be smooth are now affected. So we need to control the smoothness of the Turbosmooth. One way to do that is to add supporting edge loop. So let's do that. First, I will go into edge selection mode, select an edge, then press ring. Next, I will click on the connect option and add 2 edge loop. I'll increase the pinch value to bring the edge loops closer to the borders. These new edge loops will act as supporting edge loops, which will prevent the Turbosmooth modifier from overlay smooth the entire bottle. We'll follow the same technique and add some edge loop in this section too. For this section, I think 1 edge loop is fine. Let's move it closer to the top using the pinch value. Now let's activate the Turbosmooth modifier again. See? This time it is giving us the expected smoothness without distorting the entire bottle. If we look at the top part of our bottle, you'll notice a similar problem there too. So we'll add more edge loop there. Once the edge loop are added, take a look. I think there are some still hard-shaped in the bottle even after adding Turbosmooth modifier. So I will select the Turbosmooth modifier and increase the iteration value. This should help to smooth out the entire bottle. Now if you press F4 from the keyboard, you will see there are many edges have been added because of the Turbosmooth modifier. If this looks too cluttered, you can activate the Isoline display checkbox. This will reduce all the extra edges. But keep in mind, the Isoline display is just for preview purpose. The actual edges are still there in the mesh. Alright, now let's focus on fixing the cap of the bottle. Once again, we'll apply a Turbosmooth modifier to the cap. I'm setting the iteration value to 2 and enabling the Isoline display checkbox. You can already see that the cap has become much smoother. You can now toggle the Turbosmooth modifier on and off to check if you are getting the desired result. It feels like I need some extra detail here. So I'm turning off the shell modifier. Next, I'll switch to polygon selection mode. Then I'll press R to activate the scale tool, and while holding the shift key, I'll scale the selection slightly. This gives us some extra polygons which will help smooth out this part of the cap later on. We also need some additional edge loops. So I'll select one edge, then use ring selection to select a loop of edges around it. After that, I will press connect to add 2 horizontal edge loops. Now reactivate both the shell and the Turbosmooth modifier and check how the cap looks. Let's select this polygon. Now I'm going to press grow to expand the selection. After that, I will slightly move it upward on the y-axis to give it a more refined shape. Let's enable the shell and Turbosmooth modifier. I think now it's looking pretty good. Hide the cap for now and we'll move to the next step. In this part, we're going to add some more detail to the bottle. So let's deactivate the Turbosmooth modifier, select the edit poly modifier, activate the edge selection mode. I'll select one edge at the neck of our bottle, then apply ring selection, then apply connect, increase the edge loop. I think 11 is fine. Depend on your case, it might be different. Let's now select some alternate edges. Apply ring to select similar edges around the bottleneck. Now press and hold Ctrl key and click on the polygon selection button. This will turn your edge selection to polygon selection. Now we can apply extrude. Slowly increase the extrude depth. change the extrude type to local normal. Now the extrude should work in the correct direction. Let's activate the Turbosmooth modifier, and you can see our bottle modeling is done. In the next tutorial, we will learn how to render this bottle beautifully with proper lighting and materials. That's all for now. I will see you in the next tutorial. Until then, take care and good night.